The story of how Catherine Middleton came to be seen as a threat within her own future family began long before she ever wore a tiara. In the early 2000s, when a blushing Prince William introduced his serious, dark-haired girlfriend to his father and stepmother, the reaction behind palace gates was not one of simple familial welcome. It was one of calculation. To understand the tension, one must first understand the precarious position of Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. For decades, she had been the woman the world loved to hate, the other woman in the most famous marriage in the world. After the tragic death of Princess Diana, Camilla had embarked on a painstaking, years-long campaign to salvage her reputation. She hired publicists, softened her image, and stood dutifully beside Charles, hoping the British public would eventually forget the past and accept her as his wife. Then came Kate Middleton. She was young, beautiful, and utterly untainted by scandal. Where Camilla had to fight for every ounce of public approval, Kate seemed to earn it simply by smiling. The contrast was sharp, and according to royal insiders and biographers like Christopher Anderson, it was deeply unsettling for Camilla. It is alleged that Camilla found herself becoming disgusted, watching William and Kate dominate the headlines, sucking up all the oxygen in the room at a time when she was desperately trying to warm her own icy public standing. Kate, in her humble way, was undoing years of Camilla's hard work without even trying. The quiet contempt began to fester. But it was nothing compared to the active role Camilla would soon play in the couple's future. By 2007, the pressure had mounted. William, still a young man in his early 20s, was feeling the weight of his destiny. He had been dating Kate for several years, and the media frenzy around her was reaching a fever pitch. The term "Waity Katie" had been coined by the press, a cruel nickname that implied she was simply waiting around for a proposal that might never come. It was into this environment of doubt that Prince Charles, heavily influenced by his wife, allegedly stepped in. Christopher Anderson's book, Game of Crowns, details how Camilla saw an opportunity. She urged her husband to speak with his son, to suggest that he was too young to settle down, to question whether Kate was truly the right woman for such a monumental life. And the motivation, according to these accounts, was twofold. On the surface, it was paternal concern. Beneath it, however, was a strategic play to remove a rival. The influence Camilla wielded over Charles was well documented. He listened to her. Soon after, William did call it off. The 2007 split was a shock to the public, but it was exactly what Camilla had hoped for. For a brief moment, the relentless attention on Kate Middleton subsided, but the plan backfired spectacularly. The split, which was meant to diminish Kate, instead humanized her. The paparazzi didn't leave her alone. They followed her as she went out with her sister Pippa, capturing images of her living her life with dignity and grace. She wasn't seen as a scorned woman, but as a young woman moving forward. The public fell even more in love with her. Within weeks, the distance between William and Kate proved unbearable for them both. They reconciled, and their bond was stronger than ever. Camilla's attempts had failed to shatter the relationship, but they did not stop the Cold War. When William and Kate finally married in 2011 in a spectacle watched by billions, the dynamic inside the family grew even more complicated. Camilla was now officially the stepmother-in-law to the most popular woman on the planet. For Charles, however, the dynamic was shifting in a different direction. According to author Tom Bauer's Rebel Prince, Charles began to feel something he had not anticipated: jealousy. He looked at William and Kate and saw the new stars of the royal family. He feared, as one source put it, that he was going to be in trouble, that he would be overshadowed and left in the dust of history, and the long-reigning heir who was forgotten once the public got a taste of the fresh modern couple. This jealousy manifested in petty ways. Charles allegedly began to snub the Middletons. He reportedly decided to ignore Carol Middleton at social occasions, refusing to engage with the woman whose daughter he felt was usurping his position. To William, this was an attack not just on his mother-in-law, but on his wife and his choice of life. It was a slight that cut deep. William, known for his protective nature, was so infuriated by his father's coldness toward Kate's family that he took an unprecedented step. He went to his grandmother, the Queen, to ask her to intervene. It was a stunning rebuke of his father's behavior, a son telling the monarch that his father was out of line. The Queen, ever the pragmatist, I responded with a quiet but powerful display of unity. During a gathering at Balmoral, she made a point of inviting a TV cameraman to film her driving Carol Middleton around the estate. It was a silent, televised message to Charles and Camilla. The Middletons were under her protection, and the snubs were to stop. For a moment, the silence was shattered by the roar of the Queen's engine, but the resentment between the two households lingered beneath the surface, waiting for the next opportunity to emerge. As the years passed, the frost between the Waleses and the couple at Clarence House did not thaw. It simply evolved. The Cambridges began to have children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, and with each birth, yet the line of succession became clearer, and the future of the monarchy seemed to shift its weight onto younger shoulders. For King Charles III, these children were his grandchildren, and by many accounts, he adored them. However, the presence of the Middleton grandparents in their lives became another subtle battleground. Reports surfaced suggesting that Charles was angry that Carol and Michael Middleton seemed to be the favored grandparents, spending extensive time helping to raise the young royals while he was often tied to royal duties. This perceived favoritism toward the Middletons added another layer to the existing tension. It was in this context that Camilla's behavior toward Kate began to shift from behind-the-scenes influence to more observable, albeit subtle, public actions. The courtiers and palace aides always watching, I noted that Camilla seemed uneasy with the rising prominence of the Duchess of Cambridge. According to insiders, Camilla had never truly pictured Catherine as the one who would carry the crown forward. She had once reportedly dismissed Kate as not worthy for the royal family, questioning her suitability to be queen. Now, Kate was not just worthy, she was inevitable. This reality was a bitter pill to swallow for a woman who had spent decades fighting for her own place in the family. The tension reached a boiling point during a high-profile international visit that thrust the royal family into the global spotlight once more. When Donald and Melania Trump arrived in the United Kingdom for a state visit, the eyes of the world were on the royals to perform their duties with grace and precision. And it was meant to be a showcase of British diplomacy and royal protocol. Instead, it became a flashpoint for the simmering rivalry. During the official engagements, cameras captured a moment between Camilla and Kate that would go viral and spark endless debate. As the group gathered, Camilla appeared to gesture toward Kate in a way that many interpreted as a push or a dismissive motion, physically moving her aside during a conversation with the American First Lady. Social media erupted. Commentators called it a slight, a disdainful gesture that revealed the true nature of their relationship. Some defended Camilla, arguing that she was merely following strict protocol, perhaps alerting Kate to the arrival of the carriages or guiding her into the correct position. But for those who had followed the decade-long undercurrent of tension, it was a moment of truth. The mask of civility seemed to slip, if only for a second. Prince William, watching the coverage, was reportedly especially upset. It was one thing for there to be private disagreements. It was another for his wife to be subjected to what the world saw as a public dismissal. In the wake of the controversy, the palace attempted to maintain a stoic silence, but the damage to the narrative was done. The public now had a visual to attach to the rumors of a complicated relationship. The incident forced the hand of the newly crowned king. Charles III, who had ascended the throne after the death of Queen Elizabeth II, was now the arbiter of the family. He was aware that such public perceptions could destabilize the monarchy. He had to act, not just as a husband, but as a king. And the decision he made was calculated and symbolic. In the aftermath of the Trump visit drama, reports emerged that Camilla had been putting obstacles in Kate's way regarding a far more glamorous aspect of royal life: the jewelry. Specifically, it was alleged that Camilla had been restricting Kate's access to the royal jewelry box, the legendary collection of gems and tiaras that symbolized a woman's standing in the royal family. For a future queen, access to these heirlooms is not just about fashion, it is about status and legacy. By limiting Kate's access, Camilla was, in a very visible way, attempting to limit her shine. King Charles, however, intervened with a decision that sent shockwaves through the household. He overruled his wife. The king authorized the Princess of Wales to access the jewelry box without restrictions, and it was a stunning public endorsement of Kate's position. By legitimizing Kate's use of the historic jewels, he was strengthening her position as the future queen consort and, at the same time, limiting Camilla's influence in matters of tradition and precedence. It was a move that reportedly angered Camilla, but it established a new dynamic. Charles was signaling that while he loved his wife, the future of the crown rested with William and Kate, and they needed to be equipped for that future. The decision was a shield, held over Kate to protect her from the very palace games that had been played against her for years. To understand the depth of the defense Charles mounted for Kate, one must look beyond the politics of the palace and into the quiet, personal evolution of their relationship. In the early days, the connection between Prince Charles and his daughter-in-law was described by many as cordial but formal. He was the Prince of Wales, a man of specific tastes and generations of royal conditioning, and she was the commoner who had captured his son's heart. Yet, as the years turned into a decade and more, a profound shift occurred. The king began to see in Catherine a reflection of the very qualities he valued most: duty, discretion, and an unshakable steadiness. Royal biographer Sally Bedell Smith noted a significant alignment between the two, observing that Charles shared with William an impulse to protect Catherine. She remarked that they were in this together, a united front. This wasn't just the bond of in-laws. It was a pact forged in the fires of public life. Charles, who had spent his entire life waiting for a throne while navigating the wreckage of a failed marriage and the court of public opinion, recognized a kindred spirit in Kate. She too had endured years of scrutiny, cruel nicknames, and the pressure of an institution that rarely forgives mistakes. She emerged from it all with her composure intact, and for that, Charles reportedly came to hold her in the highest regard. Within the inner circles of the monarchy, it became an open secret that the king viewed the Princess of Wales as the future of the monarchy. He acknowledged her ability to run affairs amicably and efficiently, traits he deeply admired. Sources close to the royal household even claimed that Charles had spoken of Kate as the daughter he never had. It was a powerful statement, and one that elevated her status from a mere addition to the family to a cherished confidant. This paternal affection was a direct contrast to the complicated history Charles had with his own sons, particularly during their difficult teenage years following Diana's death. Kate, in many ways, became the steady, calming presence that helped